All right, everyone, we just got the brand new twit this week, and there's a lot of just recap going on. The main thing I want to talk about in this video, guys, you probably saw from the title, is going to be the artifact. But I do want to give a quick shout out to Games to Give. If you have all not donated yet, and you can, definitely be sure to head over to all of these links and donate if you can. It is a great cause, and you get some sick in-game stuff as well. Now, on top of all that, there is some very, very cool art. If you all would like to check that out, it's made by the community as well. And again, just with all the other just news and stuff, it's a bunch of recap stuff, a bunch of just updates to, I guess, the Fireteam Finder stuff on mobile, things like that. The trophy for the dungeon actually looks pretty cool. I'm sure there's probably some information we can dig out of that. But again, the main thing is I want to take a look at these artifact perks. Now, we already know some of them. I actually haven't read these quite yet, and I'll probably just go over them from column to column, because obviously with column 5 being the most exciting, what's probably going to, based around our builds, I'm going to read these one by one, talk about just certain things we'll have for builds, and kind of just give my reaction to all of them. But first up, for just column 1, it's always the champion mods. We already know these: but Unstoppable Fusion, Overload Machine Gun, Piercing Sidearms or Anti-Barrier Sidearms, Anti-Barrier Sniper Rifle, and Unstoppable Glaives. So I'm not going to go too crazy in depth with these, but some cool things to point out with Anti-Barrier Sidearm or Anti-Barrier Sniper. If you do have the Salvation's Edge Sniper, you should be able to do all 3 champions, because with Choke Clip you can stun Overload and Unstoppable, then the Anti-Barrier Sniper. Same thing with the Sidearm. If you have the Iron Banner Sidearm with Choke Clip, that's going to be very, very strong this season if they do end up working like this. I know Wicked Implement, everybody was kind of looking for that with this specific season out right now, and then it ended up just not working that way. But in the past, we did have Anti-Barrier Sniper, and the Salvation Sit Sniper did work, so I imagine this sidearm will work just like that as well. Also, glaives are getting a pretty massive buff with this season, so Unstoppable Glaive could be pretty good. And then Overload Machine Gun, it seems to be like really the only overload so far right now. I imagine maybe there'll be something else later in the artifact. So things like your Slayer's Fang that just came out, or any other just intrinsic overload weapon, could be pretty good. But let's start getting into the fun ones. Start off with column 2, we have Overclock and Load. So while you're amplified or have bolt charge, arc weapons gain increased handling and reload speed. Okay, so that's nice. So amplify already gives you increased reload speed with the aspect on Hunter. I know a lot of people get it confused, think amplify just gives a reload speed stat in general. It doesn't. It's only with that aspect on the Hunter. This just seems like now everybody's going to get to have that. I imagine it won't be as much as that one, but while you're amplified or have a bolt charge, I mean, we're pretty much going to have both of these all the time, it seems like, with this season. You're just going to get these benefits. I mean, this is a great pass thing to have, especially if you're playing into an arc build. The reload speed is very good, handling's decent. That could just be one you click on and you're good to go. But now we have a Deep Alchemy. So weapons with the Subjugation Origin trait gain stability and reload speed for short duration when hitting any target. These weapons are also overcharged when that modifier is active. So again, kind of like Overclock up here, you just get increased reload speed and stability just when you're doing damage. And I'm pretty sure these are the new I guess, nether weapons, the dreadnought weapons. So again, kind of just decent if you are really running these weapons, which they could be pretty good. There is going to be a new healing support auto rifle. You're going to want to take this one. But Volatile Marksman, so rapid void weapon precision hits and rapid void weapon final blows grant volatile rounds. Okay, that actually seems pretty solid. So obviously there's a couple different ways you can grant yourself volatile rounds on all the classes in the game, but now you could just take this and you're going to just get volatile rounds. I imagine this is actually going to be disgusting, especially paired with some other artifact perks that we do know of. Depending on how many kills it takes to get, I mean, getting rapid precision hits, something like Recluse, you could just get those really quick. You're going to be able to get the volatile rounds. SMGs are also getting a buff. Pairing this with a repulsor brace, even the stabilizer rounds also getting its buff. You're probably going to be able to have permanent volatile without having to take a fragment or without having to run Falcons. You can just take this artifact perk and you're good to go. It kind of just reminds me of the, picking up an orb grants volatile rounds, but you just don't have to pick an orb up now. Now it's just getting multi-kills, precision hits. So this is going to be pretty good. It also has a boost, so volatile detonations grants class ability energy. That's going to be pretty solid for any class ability based build. Obviously, I know a lot of people, even me included, don't really play into the boost too much. I don't really like to make a whole build around a boost because it's just not always going to be active unless there's some certain way to do it in this episode, but we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, that's obviously pretty good depending on the amount of energy it gets back. But regardless of this is going to be very strong in general. The fact that this is a column 2, it's going to be disgusting. You can just get volatile rounds on all your weapons. You don't even have to play into void. You just take this, and run void weapons, so you should be good to go. And next up is Legend Incarnate. So weapons with the time lost magazine origin trait gain bonus damage. These weapons are also overcharged when the modifier is active. Depending on the amount of damage bonus this does give, farming these vaulted glass weapons, again, I'm pretty sure this is what that's going to be for. It might potentially be the meta. I mean, you have Fatebringer, which is one of the best hand cannons in the game. You have Heathen's Vengeance as well. I could potentially see this being a very strong mod, again, just depending on the amount of damage bonus it gives, and plus you get the overcharge. But next up is Unraveling Orb. So picking up an Orb of Power or a Tangle grants strand weapons unraveling round. So this is great. This is going to be very good, obviously, for strand builds, or just in general. Again, kind of like up here, you don't even have to run a strand build. You just get volatile rounds. Now you can just pick an orb up and you get unraveling rounds. Unraveling rounds is great because, again, this will do anti-barrier, but it's also just good for adding extra damage, and it can even further play into some of our other artifact perks and even builds. So this is going to be a great one to have, even if you're just running a strand weapon passively. But let's jump back up to column 3 here. Let's go back up to the top. So we have Hold the Line. So while surrounded, machine guns and glaives gain increased reload speed and stability. Final blows heal you. Okay, that's pretty interesting. The machine gun ones is, I feel like, kind of whatever. I feel like this is mainly for glaives because you're just always going to be surrounded when using a glaive. Reload speed, I guess, is nice. Stability is kind of whatever. But the final blows heal you. That could be pretty good, especially if this does work with just the glaive melee. You're just literally constantly meleeing, healing all the time. Kind of is like a pseudo currency in a way. I guess the machine guns is nice if you're just in a heavy ad clear area. You could just lay down with machine guns and heal to full. I think this is going to be more of the glaive aspect, though, if I had to guess. But, I mean, having the machine guns on there is great. And, again, surrounded, you're literally always going to be like that with the glaive. The glaives build's coming, unstoppable glaives. Maybe we could have a potential glaive meta. But next up, we have Dielectric. Pretty sure that's how you say that. But defeating arc debuff targets grants bolt charge. So, right off the bat, bolt charge is seemingly going to be like the main thing this episode. This is going to be a great way to get it. There seems to be a lot of ways to actually grant bolt charge. This seems extremely easy to get it because you can pretty much just jolt all the time. You're just constantly going to get bolt charge stacks. I mean, this is going to be another one. If you're playing arc, take this. Pretty much any arc build is going to be able to take advantage of this. Again, bolt charge will also grant melee energy as well, alongside just getting that lightning strike that comes down. So this is going to be pretty good. Again, there's so many ways to apply Jolt or Blind, anything like that, just with the subclass alone, alongside just weapons in general doing it. I mean, the new Trace Rifle coming can literally apply Jolt just by hip firing it if you get the charge up. This is going to be great, and I think it will play very, very well into any arc build, just as a nice little complement, or even if you just want to play heavy into bolt charge. But then this also does have a boost, so rapidly defeating arc debuff target spawns an orb of power and heals small portion of your health. So that's going to be very solid. I mean, if you're really playing into these boosts and you really want to play into this, this is a great benefit. Again, you could debuff enemies everywhere, so you're just going to always have this health coming back, and making orbs alongside if you're on Warlock, you're making Ionic Trace as well, or if you're just taking the right fragments. There's going to be a lot of stuff you're just doing for debuffing an arc target. Now, next up is King's Vestige. So defeating powerful Taken loads your weapon with Taken energy. The next time you fire, launch 3 Taken Seeker rounds that disrupt and exhaust targets. Exhaust targets deal reduced outgoing damage. Okay, so this seems very situational. If the new, I guess, seasonal activity seems to have a lot of Taken in it, so this will be great. You can just load up your weapon, shoot out these things, and they're just going to do reduced damage. Depending on the amount of damage these do, and depending on how frequent you actually get these, I think is going to be the determining factor if you're going to actually take this or not. I could see maybe some specific mission. It's actually going to be very good in this, and you should 100% run it. But I think just overall, in general, just doing everything in the game, people probably aren't going to take this one that much. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how everything plays out with that. It's an interesting one for sure, but I just think you're probably going to take other stuff, especially if you're playing into things like Arc or maybe even Void. So next up is Disruptor Spike. So improve the effects of Exhaust and Sever, lowering a target's damage output even further. Exhaust targets deal reduced outgoing damage. Exhaust is applied by disrupting combatants or by weapons with the Cycle Hack or Subjugation origin trait. I almost couldn't say it there. So that's a lot going into that, but just know everything that just makes enemies do reduced damage now is just better. This could be very good. I mean, something like a contest mode, severing a boss just so it does reduce damage is great. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how much is this going to do based off what it currently does in the game. But I mean, literally, I get obviously just things doing less damage to you is going to be pretty solid. It's not really something you have to build around because there are a ton of ways you can apply Sever now, even with just perks on weapons, or if you want to really build into it with your subclass as well. I can see this potentially being pretty good. Again, just depending on the amount of buff it gives. Sever, I think, it's utilized by a good amount of people, but I guess just as a general like community, not a lot of people utilize it that much because it's not really like needed in lower tier content or anything like that. But in higher end content with things like contests and stuff, Sever actually is pretty good, and it lets you survive things a lot longer. But now, next up is Photonic Flare. So defeating an exhausted or severed target with arc damage releases a blinding burst. So the things down here at the bottom say the exact same thing up here, but now it's just, so now whenever you defeat any of these targets, you make a blinding burst. So obviously this is going to play heavily into Prismatic. If you have a way to constantly sever enemies over and over again, then just can get some arc damage out to kill these enemies to make that blinding burst. That could be pretty good. This could even be a very team-oriented thing. You have one person take this, you have one person sever, you could even take the trace rifle from Ghost of the Deep, just sever everything, and then somebody else just kill everything with arc damage, blonde everything. There's some synergy going on here. This could be pretty good, and if you do have, again, some specific way to do this both, namely with Prismatic, you could do this for yourself. This could be pretty decent. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to play out, because, again, if the blinding burst is not really that big, I don't really particularly see anyone using this, but if it's pretty massive, obviously blonde is very strong. Enemies doing reduced damage to you to start with. Now they just can't even shoot you on the next end of it. It could be pretty good. But going into column 4, we have Dreadful Finisher. So defeating powerful combatants with the finisher spawns special ammo for you and your allies. Defeating subjugators, tormentors, or champions spawn more ammo. Okay, so this is going to be a great just passive one to take. Obviously, special ammo finisher, the mod is very strong in general. It allows to run things like double special or just heavily focus on any like special ammo build. Now we could just have this as a passive artifact perk. They do have to be powerful combatants, and the higher tier they go up, or subjugators, tormentors, anything like that, it does spawn more ammo, which is great. But this is just going to really help you play and have infinite special ammo. This one's going to be very solid. I can see a lot of people running this, especially in things like contest mode. If you are running double special, this could be very, very solid. Now, the next couple we've seen, but I'm going to go over them real quick. So we have Maligned Harvest. I think I said that correctly, but rapidly applying volatile causes your next instance of void weapon damage to create a weakening burst. Now, this is going to pair super well with the one over here, so you could just get volatile whenever you want to. So now you could just apply weaken wherever you want to in hindsight, because you're just going to always have volatile. So now you can just rapidly apply volatile, and you're going to make that weakening burst. This is also just going to be able to be done without a void subclass. So you could just take a void weapon and get these benefits. So that is, I think, going to be where it becomes very, very strong, because typically if you want volatile rounds, you have to take a void subclass or void fragment or something of the sort. Now you can just have it whenever and also make a weakening burst. But next up is Flashover. So when you gain a maximum bolt charge, you also become amplified. Lightning bolts deal more damage. So this is going to be very good. Again, playing heavily into bolt charge. We have a thing, defeating arc debuff targets grants us a bolt charge, and then in max up bolt charge stacks, we're going to become amplified. This is going to be a good little passive thing. I think if you are playing into arc already, you're pretty much going to be amplified, and amplified's getting a pretty massive buff. So this is very good to have if you somehow don't manage to get amplified when you're playing arc. Now you just get bolt charge, you become amplified. Also, again, I guess you could technically play this without playing in arc. Playing prismatic, you can get bolt charge, become amplified like that. It's pretty good. But I think the main thing for this is going to be the fact that lightning bolts do more damage. So I think the DPS meta, honestly, is going to be some sort of bolt charge meta coming up here soon. So having your lightning bolts just deal more damage now is going to be great. There's a ton of ways you can get bolt charge going. It seems like the main one for a DPS snare is going to be the Titan aspect, just stand behind the barricade. And this is just going to further help with that. We legit might see a Thunderlord meta, because Thunderlord calls the lightning strikes, grants bolt charge. All the lightning strikes from the bolt charge will do more damage now. I don't know. Flashover, I think this is going to be a must if you are, again, just playing into bolt charge. How many times have I said bolt charge this video? Who knows? But I think it's going to be pretty good. But next up is Horde Shuttle. So this is what I'm very excited for if you all don't remember it. But damaging unraveled targets with the weapon occasionally spawns a threat lane. Back in the day, this mod was so good. You spawned threatlings like crazy. It was just a ridiculous amount of threatlings that would spawn. And since we are having unraveling orbs, that means we can always have unravel on all of our weapons now. And that means just doing damage is going to make threatlings. So typically with a threatling build, you would take things like hatchling just so you could get a threatling on a kill. But now you're just going to make threatlings while doing damage. So Warlocks, be ready for this. Threatling builds are 100% going to be back on the menu. I cannot wait to remake my threatling build I made with Wishkeeper back in the day. One of my favorite builds of all time. Is absolutely disgusting. But it's not only going to be good for that. I think specifically with something like Euphony this time around, if you don't know, that's the Salvation's Edge exotic linear fusion rifle. It can actually do a ton of damage, and it does more damage based on the amount of threatlings that have damage to target. So since you can kind of just constantly make threatlings with that, even make unraveling orbs, again, you're going to be unraveling a target, so you're making even more threatlings. You're making a ton of threatlings. You're going to be at max stacks on that Euphony very, very quickly. Linear fusion rifles are getting a buff. There's even another artifact perk over here, which we'll get into in a second. It could be disgusting. I think this could be some sort of brand new DPS meta that we're seeing. And even if it's not that, it's going to be very good for just making an accurate threatening build, because it is very, very strong. But next up, we have No Bell. So rapid glaive melee final blows grants special ammo, glaives additional ammo. I think there's supposed to be a period right there, but blocking damage with glaives increase their melee damage to targets. Okay, so playing heavily into glaives again, getting rapid glaive final blows is now going to grant ammo. It seems that glaives are also granting additional ammo, so you're going to have pretty much infinite ammo with the glaive. With the exotic glaives also kind of getting a rework, I think this could be very good. And also blocking damage now will also increase the glaive melee. Again, depending on how much damage this is going to increase, this could be very strong. And pairing this with the other artifact perk up here, where you heal on, while you're surrounded with the glaive final blows, we legit might see some glaive builds coming in. I mean, having heal on every kill, you have a survivability aspect of it, you have the ammo aspect covered with this artifact perk right here, and you even get to do increased damage as well, plus with all the buffs. I don't know, man, glaives are actually looking pretty good, and I'm excited to mess around with them. But going back up to the top on column 5, this is the main column, the fun column. We have particle reconstruction. Now, I know a lot of you probably already know about this one, but dealing sustained damage with fusion rifles or linear fusion rifles partially refills the magazine from reserves and grants them bonus damage for a short duration against that target. Literally a disgusting artifact perk, specifically for bosses. This is what probably is going to make linear fusions meta. They are getting the buff alongside this as well. Fusion's also just very good. Again, if you run out of linear fusion ammo, now you can use a fusion. But this is going to be great. I mean, you get the ammo back, the magazine. Again, pairing that with things like Euphony with Horde Shuttle, you're going to be able to shoot it a lot. You're going to get that threatling stacks up a lot. Even without Euphony just out of the equation, any just legendary linear fusion or just legendary fusion in general, it's going to be disgusting. I promise you, this is probably going to be the go-to meta if it is some precision-based balls in the contest mode. This is what you'll run. Even with something like the dungeon currently, the newest dungeon, Vesper's Host, I could potentially see linear fusions now being the meta if you can kind of just sit back and you're just laying your headshots. Obviously, with that, the map is a little hectic, so it's not as easy to do, but on any just precision-based boss, I think linear fusions are going to be the way to go, and there are so many good linear fusions in the game, from exotics. Also, Queen Breaker's getting a buff as well, so who knows, man? We might see a Queen Breaker meta here pretty soon. We'll have to see, but I think linear fusions are going to be cooking. We kind of went from grenade launchers to now linears, but well, again, we'll see. And also, the cherry on top, again, fusions also get this. So just fusions are already pretty good in general. Now they're just even better. But next up, we have Elemental Supercharger. So defeating exhausted or severed targets with weapons that match your super element grants super energy. Okay, and then again, we have the same thing here. So they're really playing heavily into the sever, or I guess exhaust in general. So again, with exhaust, you can have psycho hack or subjugation. So those origin traits on those weapons might actually be pretty beneficial. Psycho hack are the ones from the Savathun's Throne World, but just being able to kill these enemies and again just match it with your super, getting extra super energy. I mean, depending on the amount of energy this does provide, this could be pretty strong. And if I remember correctly, the one down here was making it so if you defeat a severed target or exhausted with arc, it releases a blinding burst. So now if you take this, also if you defeat them with arc, you're gonna, if you run an arc super, you're gonna get arc super energy alongside making the blinding burst, and all you have to do is just sever a target or use one of these origin traits. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how strong this is gonna be, but just being able to play into Sever, and again, they also have that increased effect actually, so they're just gonna do even more reduced damage now. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna see some sort of Sever meta. I mean, there's again some very easy options to apply Sever from just fragments, perks, just anything of the sort. Uh, so I don't know. We could see some crazy benefits of this, but we'll just have to test all that out. But next up is heavy ordnance regeneration. So dealing sustained damage to targets with a heavy machine gun or rocket launchers grant damage resistance and increase grenade and melee regeneration for a short duration. Interesting. I don't know how to feel about this one. It seems pretty good. I mean, guaranteed the damage resistance obviously is very good in any boss scenario. If you're just constantly shooting rockets, you're gonna, or I guess even machine guns, you're gonna get the damage resistance, which is great for survivability. Throw on that increased buffed Sever on there, you may be unkillable. I think the machine gun's going to get a lot more value out of this than the rocket launchers, being that they just have a lot more ammo. But having the rocket launcher on there, I guess, is a nice little touch. Kind of like up here where having the machine gun was a nice little touch for the glaive. But I think this is what they're trying to do with this is literally is stand behind the Titan barricade. I don't want to say it, but use Thunderlord. You're going to get the damage resistance. You're going to get all the bolt charges coming down. And with this, you're also going to get increased grenade melee generation. So if you haven't any, just, I guess, not really like rotations, but you can throw some, grenades to apply jolt or anything of the sort, any melee, I think it could potentially be pretty good. I don't know how strong it's going to be. I guess, again, depending on the damage reduction and also just the amount of generation that we do receive. I mean, I don't know, because this is dealing sustained damage to targets. So, I mean, I guess if you're just ad clearing with machine gun, getting these buffs is nice. If there's some very ad heavy, situations, this will be pretty good for that. I just don't know how many times you're going to take this over taking other things. But again, we'll see. I mean, Thunderlord might be trying to reign supreme here. But next up is Defibrillating Blast. So starting the champion grants maximum stacks of bolt charge, triggers an arc bolt that heals you and jolts combatants that it damages. So this is going to be pretty solid. I think this would just be solid in general, just without arc. I mean, just stunning a champion, you get bolt charge stacks. I guess you will need a way to actually deal the bolt charge damage, so you have to play into that. But this also is going to trigger an arc bolt that heals and jolts the champion, it seems like. So not only are you getting the bolt charge stacks, which can also cause another lightning strike if you do discharge it, but you also are going to get healed and do additional damage that will jolt target. So this is going to be very good. I mean, even if you pair this with, flashover, so the lightning's going to do more damage. On top of that, you become amplified. So just stun a champion, you get amplified. That's some crazy synergy going on there. I think this is going to be very strong. Very, very good for GM content. Probably will be the go-to artifact perk to take so far. I mean, we still have one more to read down here, but I think we've already seen this one from the stream. But I mean, that's pretty solid. But next up is Void Flux. So defeating weakened targets with a void weapon applies volatile to nearby targets. Powerful targets increase the radius of the explosion. So this kind of works like destabilizing rounds in a way. Any weakened target you defeat, things around them are going to become volatile. The bigger the target, the bigger the radius. But the main thing is you can pair this with our other artifact perks. So again, rapidly applying volatile will make your next void damage apply weakened. And now defeating that weakened target will apply volatile everywhere. That can synergize and play into each other. Then you have volatile rounds all the time with volatile marksman. So some crazy, crazy synergy going on here. But that is the artifact perk. I guess as some other little additional benefits, they did say that they were playing heavily into arc, strand, and prismatic. I mean, prismatic I can see with kind of like the Sever, and you're kind of trying to swap elements up to get super energy or do the arc, blind or whatever, stuff like that. I don't want to say it, but I'm a little disappointed with the arc stuff of this, because I think they're gonna be good. Don't get me wrong, but with things like Void, where it's like, oh yeah, you have volatile 24/7 and pod weekend, whereas like Arc, it's like, okay, this is gonna be good, but it's probably only really gonna be used in GMs. Flashover, I guess, is decent. It's just kind of passive. Your bolt charge does more damage, which is good, and then also the Arc debuffs grant bolt charge. They're really, 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 really just playing into bolt charge. I think it's gonna really just determine how strong bolt charge is going to be. If it's very strong, I mean, these are gonna be solid, and it's going to make arc builds just go crazy. But I think with just the knowledge of not knowing exactly how well it's going to perform, I guess I was a little underwhelmed with them. But overall, though, with the Void, I think Void low key is like the best thing here. Again, just permanent weaken, permanent volatile on every single Void weapon in the game. You don't even have to run Void. That is just going to be disgusting. I'm interested to see how the Sever stuff's going to play out. They don't really play into these too much, but there does seem to be some nice benefits. Again, Sever is very nice and harder in content, but we'll see how all that plays out. Typically, most people like just offensive stuff. They don't really like to play into any defensive thing. But granted, they are trying to make the defensive thing a little bit more offensive with artifact perks. Particle reconstruction, I think, is just going to be the go-to on every single build in the game. I'm pretty sure linears are going to be the meta. So this just is probably going to be on all the time. The heavy ordnance regeneration seems interesting with a bunch of the other stuff that we have coming in the game. Again, with the Thunderlord changes, even to hold the lineup here, there seems to be some glaive things. Not too much strand, though. I mean, Unraveling Orbs, again, that kind of just goes for everything. Then Horde Shuttle, that, again, kind of just go with everything if you are taking Unraveling Orbs. So, but Horde Shuttle is good for specific threat-based builds. I don't know. They seem pretty good. I don't want to say, like, any seem, like, too broken. Again, all this could change once we actually test them out and play with them. But having special ammo all the time, having probably the DPS meta are going to be what you want to have for, the contest mode coming out. So if there's any you need to rush to get, it's definitely these two right here. If Bolt Charge does become very strong, Flashover is going to be a solid one as well, just to make that Bolt Charge deal more damage. And Amplify also seems to be pretty good. So again, that Amplify is also great. And then if you don't want to worry about any of that, again, just take the Void ones, run a Void weapon, and you seem like you're going to get a good amount of benefits as well. But again, I think once we play around with this test a lot more, there's going to be some more things that come to light here. I'm excited to play around with these, especially with all the buffs stuff we've received. Fusions and linear fusions seem to be very strong this season, so definitely be on the lookout. I'm going to have a lot of builds based around all these artifact perks and more, so if you want to see all those, definitely be sure to stick around. I can't wait for Heresy's launch. I'm excited for the lore. I'm excited for the dungeon. I'm excited for everything, and lead into Frontiers. I really hope there is some juicy stuff, I guess, that they kind of leave us with. The builds are looking spicy. I can't wait to put them all together for you. And since we are leaning into a brand new expansion after this, at some point, probably towards the end of this episode, I'll probably just start putting like recap builds together, just for newer players coming back in the game. So if you want to recap build, depending on, I guess, what the current meta is, once we get to that point, I hope you all, or look out for those as well. But regardless, that's enough yapping for me. I will see you all very soon with the launch of Heresy. I may have another video coming out before that. I might just do like a vault cleaning video if that's something you all would like to see. But regardless, I hope you all enjoyed this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Peace.